And David looks at me. He goes, "Hey, man, we're in the zone."
Social blind roast.
And part of that was what I was saying underneath all of that was, we're in this thing, and you better not ruin it.
All right, yeah, one thought I had about what we could do is talk about what we've contributed to the Enneagram as a group. You know?
The big hormone Enneagram.
I'm John Lekovich, 415, sexual self-pres, 458 Trifix.
I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual, 9 with 1 wing, 974 Trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing-7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm a 3-wing-4 self-pres social, a 369 Trifix.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a social self-preservation 9-wing-1, 963 Trifix.
If you like or hate us, make sure you go like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and make sure you leave us a review.
All right. Chicago Zone.
Light is hitting you the most golden.
Chicago Zone.
All right.
Let's
All
go.
right, welcome. We have no idea what we're going to talk about because we are planning to do the social blind roast, because otherwise, if we just record that on our own, Alexandra would have all the heavy duty and have to come up with something.
Yeah, come up with something.
Come up with
I'd have to
something.
make it all up.
The three legends. How would you
I would
roast?
I would have
the
no
Holy
experience
Trinity?
to pull from whatsoever to make fun of you guys.
Are we not going to do that?
So maybe we'll do
No.
it, but there's a lot of 9 energy in here that's kind of want to take the edge off because we spent all night up, hanging out. So you know what we want to talk about.
What do we feel like talking about?
All right, well, we're here with...
Weren't we going to pass the mic around? And
We are here with a few
roast us?
people.
Yeah. We're here with a lot of the greatest hits guests that we've had. We're with Odinaka. Odinaka.
We should just pass. We should just have
hello,
everybody
yes. This is Odinaka Chukwumalachi Ezokoli.
in. Say your type too.
Here from Wakanda to hang out with y'all. It's been great. I feel like I've met everybody digitally, but never in person. And so it's been a really beautiful experience.
Just say your type too.
Huh?
Say your type.
Oh yeah, 639 XOSX.
I don't know if you're in the shot.
Am I in the shot?
Not in the one
Yeah,
on
he'll be in
Facebook.
that one.
That one?
Yeah, you'll
What
be in
up?
that one. You'll be in that one.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
think.
639 SOSX.
Number 2.
SOSX. Okay. You know what?
Remind people who he is, though, the astrologer.
Oh yeah, I'm an astrologer. I was on season 1. You know, big hormone Enneagram. I'm tongue tied right now.
We all are.
Yeah, moving along.
To some degree, yes.
Just pass it on.
We got the Dream Girls. If you want to say anything about your pod.
Dream Team, introduce yourselves.
Let's just do introductions right now, and if you have some extra stuff to add.
I'm Kaisa, and I'm a 9-wing-8, 935, sexual social. I was invited here as an interesting specimen.
Yes.
And also because I'm apparently a nice person.
She is.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Me, Sammy, and Kristen are hosting our own podcast now. It's called SinSomnia, and there we are gonna talk about our relationship to our instincts in the unconscious and in the archetypal and mythological way. And we've come up with ways to develop a more spiritual relationship with the instincts, so please check that out.
Well, and there's about dreams, too, right?
Yeah, dreams. Did I not say that?
You didn't say dreams.
Oh, okay.
All right.
No. I could do a quick roast. Well, despite your, we've been engaging in very, vulnerable and intimate conversations with each other. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm in a very roasty mood. So I'm just going to say that despite your self-deprecating image, you are all so adorable and lovely and huggable. You are like teddy bears. And as Ikram said, you have these like wet eyes, like so cute. You are just
That's a
discounting
roast
that
for
part.
social blind.
We're so cute.
That's so cute. You are just discounting that part of yourselves. Own it. Own it.
That's what happens. This is what happens when you try to roast social blinds. It just becomes a love fest.
This is roasting with a social instinct.
Okay.
Oh, she's about to talk a lot right now. She's about to.
Now introducing the loudest
Please.
person in the gang.
All right, I'm Sammy. I'm a 9-wing-1, 954, self-press social. As Kaisa said, I am a co-host of the SinSomnia podcast. And what else are we saying?
What do you want to
What do you want to say?
I think I've said it a lot.
What's your experience? What's your experience of being on the pod with these two?
Oh, it's been really interesting. I mean, we met very briefly in November, and then from then until now, like, we had the idea to have the podcast, and then we put it out, and we're still just like learning as we go along. So it's been a learning experience, and it's been interesting. Yeah, it's definitely like an unusual experience to be talking so openly about vulnerable stuff and putting it out there, but it feels like exposure therapy in a way, in the best way. So there's still a lot to learn, and I'm excited. So I'll pass it off to the Dream Lord now. The Dream Lord herself.
Morpheus.
Hello.
Welcome.
Okay. My name's Kristen, or Dream Lord, or Morpheus. I go by many names. Social self-pres, 9-wing-1, 963. Yeah, who am I?
Yeah, who are you?
I do dream work stuff, and we have an awesome podcast that even if no one listens to it, I love it so much. We've learned so much through it, and it's, at least for me individually, like, developed my relationship with the Enneagram and its materials in like a very personal way, like not just like things that I read or whatever. It's like, this is it inside of me. So I think that's really cool.
What's the like archetypal link between the Enneagram or the instincts and dreams?
Oh.
A big question.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're still kind of working that out. It's a big topic that would probably need way more time to explain. But we're kind of looking at, like, what sort of charge each instinct has in an archetype, and depending on where it's at in your stacking, like, what it tries to go after and how it tries to get it in the external world. So then the internal world's just, like, completely neglected. And that's where the real,
interesting,
like, relationship is.
Cool.
So that's a very summarized version.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and who are you?
Who am I? Everybody knows who I am.
Emeka the Great.
I'm Emeka the Great.
God does many great things.
The host with the mostest.
Y'all can
Saint
just consider this
Justices.
part of a social blind roast. It's just anything.
A self-roast.
Emeka talking is itself a roast.
How amazing I am. Yeah, this has been a great weekend. I think this is probably, it's up there as one of my favorite zones. We had like a really cohesive space, and we haven't really done like a intimate blending and mixing of vibes and personalities like this in a long time. So I'm really happy that you guys got to meet my sister, and it felt like a real no, it's been a great weekend, and to connect and to really remind ourselves of what life is as an experience of interconnectedness. And it's really special. I'm really happy that we can all do this together. So that's me.
All right, well, Feel the same. This is an amazing zone. It's like some of the, like, everybody rules, you know, and just been, everything's flowed so well too, but it's been like intense fun, and everybody's been down for everything, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, everybody's been very sincere, and I don't know, it's cool to find people that are sincere about what they're doing and not playing little ego games with each other.
Yeah.
And what's also been fun is that we've all been like making fun of each other's Enneagram types. And, you know, just like all the 9s under this blankie over here. Josh walking in with the 3-star power.
Push it to the limit.
Push it to the limit. You know, the 7 jellyfish over here just vibing. And, you know, 6s doing 6 and 8 doing 8 and all that kind of stuff. So it's been really fun.
Hey guys. I'm Alexandra. I'm a 9-1. I'm one of 4 Bermudas that are here, which is excellent. We got more attachment takeover here.
The Bermuda slave race.
Yes, the Bermuda slave race. Yes, we have, just for whatever, dude. Slave race. We're going to take over all of you. We have, let me see. We have a 6, a 9, a 9, a 9, a 9, a 3, and a 9, and a 6. Okay, we've got like mostly attachment types here, and I don't know. I just wanted to comment on that. Yeah, as somebody that has had a lot of anxiety with these kind of meetups, it was really nice to go into this one with none.
Yeah.
No concerns, and it was kind of, you know, it's the result of that has been kind of a strange experience, because what I ended up being afraid of was the fact that I had nothing to be afraid of. So it's been a very open, clear space for me to do some like really, for me to start doing some like important processing and some important release. Made some really close connections now, and yeah, it just feels, this has been really special, and I'm just really glad to have it with you guys.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name's Akram. I'm a 7-wing-6, 793, social sexual. And
Hold the mic closer.
I'm really happy to be here. It's been a very heart-opening weekend, and I've met all of you for the first time in person. And I think I've really only talked to David personally before coming here. But it's so special because I feel like I know you guys deeply, which is just, I don't know, feels like it should be fake, but it's not. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say, but very happy to be here and happy that I got to meet all you beautiful people. So, yeah.
What's up, douchebags? I'm Josh. I'm Josh. I'm a 3-wing-4, social self-pres 396. And I host a podcast / interview show called What It's Like to Be You. I've interviewed many people here, including Ikram over here. Coming for the rest of you soon.
I'm your host, Josh Levine.
That's right.
Welcome to What It's Like to Be You.
Yeah, what else should I say?
Impressions of the weekend, or whatever you want to say.
Where there's a tear, Josh will be here.
Yeah. I'm processing. I brought kind of a big moment actually for me was bringing my friend Jennifer here today.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Also me.
I feel like there's a way that I've been rediscovering my assertive energy, and you know, some people have like commented and just kind of mirrored it to me in a way that's been really nice. It helps me kind of see myself, and part of claiming my assertive energy is like, you know, the having the thought like I want my friend to come and meet you guys, you know, and then obviously today is kind of like a chill day, like the vibe wasn't fully there for it to catch, but like, you know, I just felt really good about I'm like, yes, like this, I feel certain about this. Like she's good for the group, you know,
Right.
and the group is good for her. So that feels really special. And yeah, I've got a lot internally going on right now. I'm kind of processing, just like a swirl of things, but, I feel like my heart is really open right now. And, yeah, I feel really touched right now in a way that's like, it's still very raw, but very beautiful. So that's where I'm at.
Finally, she reveals herself.
Courtney with the K.
Hello, I'm Courtney with a K.
She has to have theme music.
It's true. I'm a 6'5", 6'3", social self-pres, and I was also on in season 1.
And season 2.
And season 2.
And season 3.
Really, I guess, kickstarting the whole object relations thing, which has been such a big piece of the contributions you guys have made to people and to the field. So that feels special. And yeah, it's been really fun to be here, and I want to stand for healing can be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I think is what happened yesterday and is continuing to happen.
He's got his own.
I'm David. I think you all know me. What you don't know is that I'm retyping now as a social 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been getting up into everybody's business the whole weekend with love and affection and tending to everyone's needs, not thinking about myself. No, it's been great. Good to reconnect with old friends, and glad you all are here. That's it. Yeah.
I've known David since 2005, and just found out yesterday he's Jewish.
David's a Jew. He's a Jewish person.
Social blind roast.
And then me and John just realized yesterday that we're firstborns with 2 rejection parents.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that. Yeah.
Wait, I knew that about you guys. You didn't know that about each other?
I mean, we didn't make that connection.
Social blind. Social blind.
We're just vibing, man. We're just vibing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the original plan was to roast social blinds, but everybody's all gentle and heart open now, so pathetic.
Yeah. That's what happens when you try to roast us.
I feel like a different direction would be that history of the group now.
What we've contributed.
Yeah, I feel like that would be good.
Each stacking's here.
Each stacking is here. Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about that? Okay. All right, yeah, one thought I had about what we could do is talk about what we've contributed to the Enneagram as a group, you know? And I think, like, the reason I was thinking about this was I think our distinctions of attachment versus hexad and, you know, what those mean, as well as really clarifying the sexual instinct, are probably our 2 biggest contributions to actually the Enneagram. But I feel like if those were like understood in a popular sense, it would really help a lot of people, and it would change a lot. You know, that being a sexual type and writing my book and stuff like that, I like instinctively knew I was a sexual type because I was not a social type, and I was not a self-pres type. But I always thought sexual was really badly defined, and there was things kicking out there that was maybe a little bit more on the mark or something. But none of it matched my experience. And one time I had a MDMA experience where I was put into contact with a deep fear in my body of being unattractive. And it was like really core, very profound fear, and I came out of it and being a 4, I thought that is the most superficial thing I could imagine being motivated by. You know, that was what I was afraid of. I disguised it from myself in different things about, you know, I don't know, wanting like real deep intimacy and all this other stuff. And I'm sure it's a part of it, but it was to really see like, oh, I'm afraid of being unattractive. Mm-hmm. And then I did a lot of research on, I had to understand it biologically. Like I had to understand like what, like, you know, how do human animals relate to, what is the human sexual drive? And then how is my reactions based in that? And so that like led to a lot of my book. But, you know, working with people, as coaching and stuff like that, I work with mostly sexual blinds, and a lot of people come to me because they've read my book, and I'm the only one defining the sexual instinct in a way that helps them. And, you know, just the amount of like people's sexual trauma and wounding is so immense, and so how to locate and deal with all that grief around the sexual blind spot's a huge thing. So, you know, that feels really, I'm pretty proud of that, and really glad that's out there. And I feel like our pod has done a good job of fleshing it out and like demonstrating it and demythologizing it.
Yeah.
A lot of times people online just like make the sexual instinct into something that's very self-flattering. I think we've made it very human and regular and not so special.
Right.
So yeah, that's, I don't know, there's a lot more to say, I guess, but I don't want to keep rambling.
Yeah, the sexual instinct, I mean, it was a big deal for me, studying the instinct changed my life to sort of understand what's really going on with these instincts and for my own sexual instinct. Because I couldn't identify what makes me a sexual type if I'm not self-pres or self-social, and how can I work with this, and what are the implications for my own life? And running across John's material on Facebook and arguing with all the idiots who were offended that, oh my gosh, that the sexual instinct has something to do with sexual attraction. Like, we're just animals. Like, people were so up in arms about the fact that this is talking about animal reality. But it's a real profound, I've seen that it's had a real profound effect on a lot of people who are sexual blind to recognize that getting in touch with the polarity and tension of the sexual instinct is a huge unlock, in as much as it is for me to get in touch with my social instinct. And so it also feels like one of those mysterious things that's really difficult to make clear. As with all the blind spots, if it's your blind spot, it never feels like it's clear enough. So it's been really cool to see that people are sort of like, this invisible thing's becoming more and more visible. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see that we've been able to do that for people over the years.
So I was thinking that it'd be interesting to actually excavate the history of it, like put it together, the narrative. Mm-hmm. So I'll just leave that as a social type.
All right.
So the
context.
Yeah, context. Like, how did the podcast start? How did how did you guys all meet? And what were the kind of like I have an assumption that you guys all met and kind of connected based on a common understanding that shit was wrong in the Enneagram field. And so I'm curious, what were those initial sparks of curiosity and frustration, and then kind of like talk about the Facebook group, how that stared. And
that's cool. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it's really good.
History of the group. Yeah.
Well, well, all things begin with the Alpha and the Omega. David Gray.
Yeah. Social 2 brought everybody together.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to go, or do you want to talk about it?
No, you.
All right, well, I joined the Regional Hudson Boards in high school. I learned the Enneagram in high school. My friends Colleen and Mary told me about it and got obsessed instantly, went online to find anything, and there wasn't much. Found this board. People were talking and arguing. It was mostly arguing and pretty brutal arguments and pretty brutal attacks on people. And David was writing in his, imagistic, archetypal way, and I wrote him and was like, hey, I love the way that you articulate things. I feel like I think in a similar way that you write, and I've never seen anybody else do this, you know, like think like this. And so David goes, what's your address? And I've talked about this before, but he sent me like over $100 worth of books. And before David, I didn't really read books because most of them were fucking stupid. And since, I just have not stopped reading. So David and I remained friends for...
What year was that?
That was like 2005 or 6 or something. I was still in high school. And we just stayed in touch. We'd see each other at conferences.
Yeah.
Just friends for a long time. And then, you know, I like arguing online helps me articulate myself and get my ideas out, and it also helps me see how people think about things in a way, like where their mind goes to things, so I can kind of anticipate how to actually respond to things in a certain way. So I was doing that a bunch, and you know, and then this Emeka guy starts responding to things and making comments on things, and I see him talking to David or whatever, and eventually, like we I think one of our early things was we were arguing with Joseph.
Yeah. You know what? Joseph was new to the Enneagram, and he thought he was sexual self-pres. And at the time, I had hooked up with these guys, just, you know, commenting on instinct stuff. And I was, you know, like...
What year is this now?
This is around 2015 on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, so 2015...
The collage thing, too, kind of. Wasn't that part of what had us see Joseph, was the collage thing?
The collage thing came later.
Okay.
But, I mean, the collage thing came later. I think the collage thing was 2016, so it was around the same time. But at that time, 2015 on Facebook, John was really pounding like sexual instinct is sexual attraction. Mm-hmm. And so I was really activated by that. So it's kind of like it became this sort of like the three of us would be on forums, like really pushing this idea, supporting each other. Mm-hmm. And we had some ideas on working on instinct stuff together. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of became friendly that way. And at some point, I was in New York and I hit up John, hey, let's meet up. And so we met up at a coffee shop and we talked, and it was like an instant, like, I mean, I'd known these guys. My experience of the Enneagram is looking around, the Enneagram is just full of boomers, super lame, and I'm like, I can't engage with any of these people. So these two guys really stood out to me as like, they get it, they're smart, and they're creative, but they also seemingly have a good time. These are my type of people. So I met John, I was like, we hit it off, and then that became, Joseph came later. I think I recognized that the three of us needed some social. And Joseph was someone who was really seemingly passionate about the Enneagram in a serious way. Mm-hmm. And so we started fucking with him. You know, just sort of like, you're not social blind. And then one day I messaged him, and he eventually messaged me 6 months later, and we connected. And he wanted to do something in terms of a site or do something together. And that's how the group and the website and everything sort of got going. So Joseph was the social push that we needed. Yeah.
And that, what year was that?
That was me, David, and Joseph working on Enneagrammer. It was 2017. Mm-hmm. We started thinking about 2017. 2018, we started the group. Mm-hmm. So 2018, we started the group.
Part of the deal is also we got kicked the fuck out everywhere.
Yes, we got kicked. We got kicked out of all the other groups. That was the impetus. We're gonna do our own group.
Yeah, one time I was having a discussion with somebody that they were like asking me about my instinct point of view, and I'd done all this research in biology, and I started talking about, I thought it was like a sincere discussion, so I started talking about sexual selection. I started talking about the evolution of sexual instinct and how it shows up in different animals, and sexual selection is different than natural selection. It's like how animals evolve because they mate based on sexual choice, being turned on by other certain animals. And I remember I think I got too 5-y because I was talking about how in a gorilla, there's not as much social instinct as there are in human beings. And so what that means is that in gorillas, they're not so much selecting based on, choice, right? And so a male gorilla's mating energy goes towards its own muscles to beat up other male gorillas. It's not about making the lady gorilla like him. Whereas human beings, our personalities are in large part sexual ornaments, and that a personality is a big part of sexual attraction. And so I had this whole thing where, so like even like the male penis, for example, shows the effects of sexual selection over time. And one of the things that, it's like very big, the male penis relative to our body size, our testicles are very big. It's all this stuff because it means that we're supposed to engage in a lot of sexual activity. And they're really small because...
Nobody heard that. Just making sure everyone heard that. Courtney's contribution was...
Yeah, Courtney, please share your contribution.
Don't ask me how I know this, but gorilla balls are very small.
Yes, the size of almonds. And their penis is 1 inch long. And that's because they're not... The pleasure is not the thing there. Yeah, it's not the draw there. Whereas in human beings, female sexual selection is based on pleasure and feeling good and being connected and all these other things. So our bodies show this. So I was just like laying out this argument, and this person replied that I was what was it?
Raping them, or
yeah, like digitally raping.
Digitally raping.
And I was like,
yeah.
Whoa. And this person identified as a sexual type. And so, sort of this whole shockwave where we got kicked out of a bunch of things at the same time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm talking to, this person was like 40 years older than me. It was like unbelievable, the fragility, you know what I mean? In terms of just, like, this is just heat biology. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was a big aspect.
We had to create a space for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's not just like the accurate representation of the Enneagram, but also like this sort of, millennial, whatever, internet culture where you can express yourself and not be, you can't just speak your mind. A lot of groups are policing the way people were expressing themselves, or if you introduced a certain idea that people found offensive because they felt invalidated. So we created a group that, you can just be yourself. And so don't expect anyone to hold your hand here. If you say something, your ideas might be challenged. And so that's why our group is the way it is. But also at the base of it is that we're not going to create a group where it's okay for people to feel comfortable that they can share misinformation about the types. Like, we want accurate typing to be at the center of this group. Mm-hmm. And so it was a rocky start. It was like, it created a lot of shitstorms, but the end result is people who really value a social environment where people really care about, getting the right stuff.
Yeah, prior to our group, the Enneagram had generally like a very professional veneer. It was either professional or quasi-religious. Mm-hmm. And so it was all very sterile.
Yeah.
And there was no, like, people just say like, oh, I'm a 5. And it was like, there might be very clearly something else. And so you couldn't even suggest like, hey, maybe you want to take a look at 9 or something like that. Yeah. And that would just proliferate and create conceptual drift and all this other stuff. And so, yeah, it was just like, had this like very like 1990s seminar vibe energy.
Yeah.
That was like, that I feel like our group did a pretty good job of clearing out.
So I know we're not roasting here, but I'm going to do the anti-roast. And that willingness to have spaces where people don't necessarily feel held,
mm-hmm.
but there's a larger purpose of accuracy. That's the advantage of social blind,
mm-hmm.
right? Is like that this is not my problem,
mm-hmm.
whether you feel part of the group.
Right.
And so I do think that that's part of the edginess generally of the podcast, but also the Facebook group is you are committed to things that are bigger than whether people like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And so the podcast came out of some Facebook chats that developed, and people were sharing even more on a personal level. And so it became this blend of personal sharing, but also delving into the material even more. Mm-hmm. And then people started asking for a podcast. And
well, yeah, I mean, I want to circle back, talk about the collage exercise.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
But I'll talk about this briefly. In 10 minutes.
Sure, yeah. That all happened organically.
Yeah, but I mean, we were going to IA, the International Enneagram Association conference, and like we would go so that we would all have these like have big parties afterwards, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like
the zone before the zone.
It was like proto zones, and it was like cool to have like us, but also like kind of extras around,
right?
You know, like just like people around to kind of be like, let's keep the energy going, and so we go dancing, all this kind of stuff, and we go crazy, and it was like, man, the conferences aren't that great. But it's really expensive, and I think it was so. First, it was like I remember at one of those conferences being like, "David, Emeka, we should do a podcast." You know, like, and you know, it was sort of like, maybe, you know, and we're like, but we should do it. I think our conversations are really interesting and good. I think this would be fun. It's like, and then did we start at the pandemic?
We started
right
late 2019. We started recording.
Okay.
Went live in 2020.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic.
Yeah. So it was, because I remember we started. Yeah, we remember having some phone calls about how we would do it and stuff like this. And but yeah, it was just I remember just bothering these two about it, and you know, we were like, yeah, Nancy should join all this other stuff, and you just have interesting discussions, and maybe somebody will listen.
Yeah, we didn't expect anybody to listen.
Yeah,
we were like, we'll just, and it's been like a social. Every year has been like a step forward in stepping forward into the social. Like with Joseph, like there are a lot of things that I've been doing over the last 5 years that I never thought that I would want to do or even do. Being on camera is extremely uncomfortable. Being recorded is extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, for real.
So it's been like one thing led to the next. You know, doing the podcast led to being more comfortable on camera and or even just typing people and dealing with their reactions. So yeah, it's been a huge, for the three of us, just even learning that we like meeting up on a weekly basis and talking to each other. The fact that we do the podcast together is a secondary benefit. Yeah. The fact that we get to hang out with each other every week.
Yeah, we didn't realize that.
We didn't realize
social blinds. Like, we like talking to these people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to circle back to you though, because so you were on discussion boards for a while, and you and John found each other.
Right.
2005. That's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when's the first time you guys all met in person?
Not until I think a conference in like 2012.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So, but you had already been doing your own kind of alchemical creative work with the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And on your own.
Yeah, I think it was 2014.
Talking to the mic.
In around 2014, I came up with my instinct cards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think sent those out to these guys.
Yeah.
And that's the initial, there were collages on there.
Okay.
And that kind of spurred that whole
collage
movement.
So I guess what I'm trying to piece together is like the sequence of insights that have built into the content universe that we now have.
Yeah.
So like you had your instinct cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere also along the line, you had synflow, counterflow.
Yeah.
You had
and the elements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how that all came about?
No. Yeah, I don't know. Like the thing with the elements, the classical elements, associating them with the instincts. For some reason, it just occurred to me probably around, I don't know, like 2010 or so, roughly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And yeah, I don't even know why I had the idea to associate 4 elements with 3 instincts, but I did. And when I did it, it just immediately clicked, like, this is a fact, right? It's just obvious that it made sense. And that is kind of the precursor to the collage piece, because there's an elemental aspect in the collages.
How do you link the Bhava Chakra? Where'd you find Bhava Chakra?
Well, there was a woman on the discussion board we met on who mentioned hungry ghosts, which is one of the realms in the Bhava Chakra. And I looked that up just immediately for some reason. And I saw that there were 6 of them. And I just said to myself, this is going to be the stackings. And then I read them, and I could immediately correlate them two of the stackings just ping, 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 that just went, and that's how that went.
So the first collage exercise was done when you had your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I was with he had given me his instinct cards, and I was just fascinated with the idea that people could sense into the instincts that way. And so I was just trying them out with people, and I was dating a sexual one at the time, and she was highly critical, and she hated David's collages. And so I was like, why don't you make them? So we ended up making collages for her with her arrangements and her images. And then I had an idea to send it off to David, not telling him who it was. It's like, what's your sense of these images? Mm-hmm. And so he wrote like a couple paragraphs that basically were describing her. Mm-hmm. And that made the connection that, wait a minute, if someone makes a collage, their instincts are in the arrangement of the images. Right. And so that began, well, let's just see how far this can go. I'll get somebody else who he doesn't know to make a collage, and he'll get impressions from it. And so that became, all of 2017 was basically fleshing out this idea. And what was crazy to me is that there were 6 distinct styles that emerged from however many ways people were putting images together. So the 6, worlds were showing up through these collage arrangements. And to me, that was like, whoa. I thought this David's, his Baba Chakra connection was just, interesting idea. I didn't think it would show up in things people were actually doing. So it made the instincts just like become a real thing, that the stackings were real in the way that people were, their relationship to images and aesthetics. And not just collages, but in general. Like this, the way you see the world, the way you dress, the way everything is coming through your instincts. And so that began what the collage exercise became. And yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I feel like the collage thing is like it's a true discovery. You know what I mean? It's like, and even the way that it came about sort of just surprised everybody.
Right.
And I feel like what you guys are doing with the dream stuff is, in a certain way, an extension of that, or a deepening of it. Because, really, the collage thing is just an imprint of an aesthetic imprint of your unconscious.
Yes.
And yeah, I feel like that's like a really meaningful contribution. The collage thing, it blows my fucking mind.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing.
It is.
How much you can get out of that.
Yeah.
So all right. So at this point, we're like 2017-ish, 2019.
2017.
Somewhere around there. You have the collages, the sexual instincts.
So we start the group, and we start typing people for free, having people submit typing videos in their collages. And, there's a shitstorm because the results people are getting are very different from what they thought. But at the same time, people were able to see the types in action. People were learning the Enneagram because they could see, oh, I can see that this is a self-prezi collage, or this is a social collage. Or they can see, oh, this person who thinks they're 4, they're doing all this, 6 stuff. I can see the head energy. So the types, people were learning the Enneagram experientially. So not just because we were typing people, but people were able to see the types in action. And so it sort of started building a collective energy around, a collective intelligence around observing what the types were in real time. And so that began in 2018. And it's sort of like, I think people have been learning the Enneagram that way, just to see people post their types and talk about themselves.
That's a good point, because these days, you pay for typing and you just get like the results back.
Sure, yeah.
But it used to be like totally free, open, transparent, and everybody was participating.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just y'all 3 just making shit up. It was like there was a whole kind of feedback loop around it.
People could see the types were real. Like they could see, okay, I see why they got typed that way. And it sort of demystifies all these types. Like, okay, head center, body center, heart center. And I've learned, that's how I learned the Enneagram, but there are a lot of people who started to see, like, it was like an informal type panel to see real people showing up as certain types.
Yeah.
I have a quick anecdote on that front. I joined the group during this part of, the history before they were paying for collages. I remember coming into the group because I had seen David stomping around other groups telling people that they're 9s. And I wanted to get ahead of the confrontation. So I just, like a 9, I didn't want to be confronted. So I went in there and, I read the instructions, do a 20-minute, or I think it was like less than that at some point. I don't know, whatever. I did a typing video. I submitted my collages, and I thought I was a sexual self-pres 5-wing 4 based on very bad information. It's obviously nowhere near the truth now. But I remember before I had gotten feedback from David or Emeka, just people in the group were already guessing 9, just like other students were already guessing 9. And I remember somebody commented on the video saying something like, oh, because I took it while I was driving and not looking at the camera, which is a good indicator of what type I was already. Somebody said, well, we don't see your body language. And I immediately jumped on that opportunity to refilm the video with the excuse oh, I can't possibly be a 9. I was driving. And so you can't see that I'm not a 9. So I redid the video, but in between that, Emeka messaged me, and all he said was, why'd you delete your video? Or I can't remember the specifics, but he said something like, why'd you delete your video? And I was like, somebody told me that I, did the instructions wrong. And he was like, you're a 9. And I was like, why? Or no, maybe I didn't say why because I was too scared of that information by that point. But he said something, his basic thing was, you're a 9. And then in a separate, social blind, very short sentence, he said, I could see it in the first 10 seconds. And I was horrendified. And then I eventually posted the collages, and David typed me social self-pres, and I was like, this is insane. What is going on? And then I asked him, how do you see social self-pres? And his response on the comment was something like, well, I just don't see anything about sexual attraction. How are you trying to... I don't know, convey any kind of sexual attraction in your direction. And I remember also being horrified by that. It was like, that is a sinful way of living, and I guess I'm not a sexual type. So that's when I started. Anyway, back to...
Now you're living in sin.
Now I love sin.
I feel like one of the narratives in our group is that there's bad information out there. And I think that that's true. But I also think that part of people's mistyping that is also one of the insights regarding people's mistyping that our group has also kind of surfaced is that it's actually just very hard to see yourself.
Yeah.
And that even with excellent verbal descriptions, developing the inner eye to be able to see the patterns that are unconscious in you is actually a developmental process. And I think one of the things that fascinates me, particularly as a social Bermuda type, about the Facebook group is the boundaries that you guys enforce in it. And I feel like the ways that you kick people out, the reasons you kick people out, and the kinds of behavior and comments that you don't tolerate are reverent to that thing, which is kind of the truth that you're sort of the people who are valued in the group are the people who can access their own emotional truth.
Yes.
And the people who aren't or who get kicked out are people who are sort of stuck in some kind of deception. And I wonder if you guys could talk about that and how that came about and your insistence on it, or was that clear up front, or did it kind of emerge as a sensibility over time?
Well,
we used to be a lot more chaotic and drama prone, and a lot of mentally ill people, and people just having meltdowns. There was periodic waves of emotional meltdowns when people got a type in they didn't like, or there was a 2 who didn't get the kind of one of the few 2s that got typed, who I can't remember exactly what happened, but I don't think she was just getting the kind of red carpet rolled out for her that she expected because she was connected to therapists or something. It was she just could not believe, she had a huge fucking meltdown about it. There was these sort of people trying to get a lot of attention. And it's weird. It was specifically kind of clout chasing in this weird, stupid group. And yeah, people just get taking stuff really fucking personally.
Very personal.
It was very strange. So yeah, we started logging down, and people making alts to get into our group and like just cause drama. It was really fucking weird.
Because we used to be a lot more hands-on responding to people. And so because of these meltdowns, we learned to just take more of a step back, because any comment can be, if I comment about someone's type, they can take it as you're invalidating me, or you're talking shit about me, or something like that. And so we've stepped back. But at the same time also, just to send a message that we aren't going to tolerate people doing that kind, like ruining it for the people who are really here sincerely to get into this stuff. But I also think doing DAA has changed the tone of the group, because people get to see our faces talking through these type distinctions. And so a lot of these questions have been answered by some of these classes we've done. I've noticed that people don't have much shit to say when we're pumping out videos on a weekly basis about these type distinctions. So I've definitely noticed that. But it's also, setting boundaries, but also we're in a way more present, even though we're distant. Like we're more like, we have more context, I guess, for people to hold on to about our positions on these types, or what we think the right types are.
Can you talk about the origin of DAA?
So DAA came about because because of OPS, and for years people have been asking us to teach them how we type, and we just didn't want to do workshops. And
you pointed to Ikram because she was the one who introduced OPS.
She introduced David to OPS, and he got us into OPS, and we saw that Dave and Shan of OPS were doing weekly videos. Yeah. And we were like, that's a format that we can do. We can do something like that where we show examples of types and we discuss it. We do that anyway, just hit record, versus doing like a planned workshop. So we started that, and people really enjoyed it, and it was a good informal way for us to get our insights out there with typing in a somewhat structured but not really structured way, but also entertaining. And just almost like hanging out and sharing insights. That's kind of how we all learned how to do this stuff. And we've been doing it for about 2 years now.
Yeah, cool. One thing that's kind of striking me is that I feel like everyone here in this circle comes to the Enneagram from a place of personal inspiration and a sense of like creative exploration.
Yes.
And I think, part of that is due to the boundaries that you've set in the group, that it creates the kind of space that attracts those people.
Right.
But I'm thinking, like, Courtney, I'd love to hear from you about your kind of origin story with Enneagram and how object relations started to percolate for you. And and then maybe we kind of go from there to the dream thing. Because I think there's like...
There's a progression. There's a creative progression.
Yeah. So, here we go.
Thanks, Josh. All right, so John and I met in 2018. Do you want to tell the story?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
yeah, you tell.
Okay. I was, I used to work as Russ Hudson's assistant, and he was teaching, he started teaching these inner work retreats on the centers, and like last minute he needed me to like co-teach with him. So, I worked with Russell for like 5 years, and this was like the only teaching gig or whatever that I did with him, but I like fell into it as like, I think it was one of the more advanced things, and so we're teaching, and there's this striking blonde Valkyrie in the audience, and at the end of it, I'm just chilling in the Enneagram Institute's like a place called The Barn, and there was like a cafeteria area, and Courtney just comes talk to me, and we just hit it off, and then you hit me up a few times. We had like long conversations just about the Enneagram, and you were kind of like throwing out ideas and checking them off and sharing stuff, and we just had a good friendship right away.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective as a type 6, and I still struggle with this a little bit, like before I wanted, which is so different than you all, before I felt like I could make any sort of contribution, I needed to get the total landscape of what already existed. And so I was talking to John because I'd obsessively read everything I could find, but it still felt like I didn't feel like I checked off every box. And so there were things that I started asking John about. And one of them was the object relations framework, which people had made passing reference to, which you couldn't find in the literature anywhere, really. And I started actually, as a type 6 would, from a place of fear, like, what does everyone know about this that I don't know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm remembering, because I've always been obsessed with object relations. And I was like, that's the thing. And then it was cool that you immediately like recognized that was the thing too. Yeah.
And so I started out wanting to know the object relations stuff as this is a part of the Enneagram that I need to know if I'm going to understand the Enneagram. Just like I need to understand reactive types versus, positive outlook and assertive versus withdrawn, blah, blah, blah. And as I worked through it with John, the classification just really wasn't working for me. Like, it really felt like it was working in a mental way, and that was about it. And there was nowhere to go to understand at a non-cognitive level what those categories and what it meant to be attached, what it meant to be rejecting, what did it mean, the mother figure versus the father figure. And it was really from my own desire to be touched and moved by the material and recognizing that the 6 way of doing that was missing the mark. And that in order to be emotionally engaged and moved really by what object relations can say about the type, I had to figure it out for myself. And so there was a whole exploration that I did on my own, and then would, again, like a good 6, circle back to John. What do you think of this? And so I was really flattered when he asked me to be on the podcast and to talk about these ideas.
Those are, I think, everybody's favorite episodes. Those are the episodes if people want to get into it. Some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just a quick thing on that. Those are the episodes that first really broke my heart about being my type and having 6 fix and having a 3 fix. So that was my first real cracking. I guess I had kind of one before, but that really got to the center of my suffering in a lot of ways.
I believe every type is doing something for a reason. And you can, rather than to push them away as what the fuck are they doing, figure out why, what do they have to believe in order for that to make sense, for that to be their chosen course of action. And that involves sort of being that type, and viscerally and emotionally living in their shoes and in their skin. And I think object relations is a way to do that. And then I think, obviously, there's been so much that has come out of those initial podcasts where you all have really run with the idea of attachment versus hexad. And I think a lot of people come to the Enneagram, maybe not social blind types, but others trying to figure out their interpersonal dynamic. Why can I not get along with this person?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the object relations piece is the most helpful lens to look at what is really a driving motivation for so many people with the Enneagram, is trying to figure out how to be in relationship with the people they love. So I think that's really the contribution of the attachment versus hexad structure, is it provides a whole different way of understanding interpersonal relationships seen through the lens of the Enneagram, rather than lists and categories and stuff.
Totally. Kind of, circling back to the beginning of the podcast, I remember we started, in 2020?
Late 2019, we started recording.
Yeah, we started but we really started releasing in 2020.
2020, January.
I remember getting COVID on one of our calls.
Yeah.
Before even I knew COVID was really coming, or it was kind of maybe it'll just not be a thing. and I like was like, man, I'm getting really fucking sick right now, and I had COVID, and like in February, and so then everybody was fucking isolating during it, and so being able to talk to these guys was really important.
Yeah.
And I had
that
a lot
was
of
a big year.
That was big. Yeah, I had a lot of friends on. That kept me in touch with other friends, like to just be the different exemplars, and we need to re-record some kind of new, having like ones on and twos on and kind of thing.
Right.
But that was really great. And then part of why we did the first zone was because the conference was canceled.
Yes.
And we were like, we still want to fucking hang out. Why, why, and we've also just been not doing stuff because of COVID. So everybody came to New York, and that's where this tiny one came from. And it was funny because before she and I were together, she was on the Making 9 Great Again call, and I always bring up how she was like we were talking about emotional location, how a 9s hide it, and she was like, yeah, I hide my emotional location. So what I'm saying is I could never be with a 4, John.
Never be with the 4.
Jokes
gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, no one asked me. I just volunteered the information that I could never be with a 4 with no one fucking asked me. That was just like a weird subconscious thing that just came out of my mouth.
It's still a big mistake,
beckoning.
isn't it?
And but I mean, I remember before, like when we started going, that's like we'd known each other in a chat, and I was like, man, Alexandra's really smart. She's really funny, and she's really insightful. I remember telling my ex that over and over again. Alexandra's so smart and funny, and it's just so insightful and so deep. Wow, I wish she could be on the podcast, And then we met, and it was curtains. And, that was just a big, weekend for all of us,
It was, yeah.
And
the first zone.
And it was just, it was so fun, so good. It was like, wow, this is a thing. And continuing to have that, it's been such there always seems to be a new spurt of creativity after a zone, in terms of our material, because we either saw a bunch of good shit or saw a bunch of bad shit on a zone.
Right.
So for a bunch of social blinds that kind of started this, it's very funny how social this is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we got together after Zone.
How did the name Zone come about, Josh?
I think as a 3, you might have reframed this story. But go ahead.
I thought I'm walking into a trap now.
Yeah, you're walking into the trap.
So this is how I remember it. I was so the zone was in New York where I happened to live, and so I was kind of doing my own thing, and I was not yet kind of part
you
of
were in.
You
were.
I was kind of getting to know people.
You knew me, but you didn't really know everybody else as well.
But I'd hung out with you guys a couple nights, and then there was one night where, there was you guys were in an Airbnb that had a basement where you literally walk down the stairs into this basement. It's
and you're in this
no windows, and you're in this
area.
dark den.
Giant bed.
Yeah, one giant bed.
Giant bed, yeah.
And a lot of space to dance and stuff,
and walk around,
walk around. So there was, there were some substances involved, and anyway, so I show up late to this hang, and I walk down the stairs, and it's probably 11:30 or something. I walk down the stairs, and I hear this music coming, and I get into the room, and I see some people are on the bed just rolling around like this, and some people on the ground kneading their head into the ground, and David is playing guitar, standing with his head.
It's all dark, and there's lots of
super
lights
dark and red lighting and stuff.
And doesn't David have sunglasses on?
Probably. Yeah. So I walk down the stairs and I go, whoa, and David looks at me. He goes, "Hey man, we're in the zone."
Social blind roast.
And part of that was what I was saying underneath all of that was we're in this thing, and you better not ruin it. There's a vibe right now, and I'm worried that this guy might change everything.
Change the dynamic.
Keep the harmony.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I did not read the subtext at all. Wow, that's hilarious.
You had to find out.
I have a question. So we're
Give him the mic.
Yeah.
Let me see if it'll reach.
Get it, yeah.
Yeah, we're hearing everybody's origins, but I've never heard the origin of like, Josh, how'd you get involved with this group?
Sure. Okay, so where does it begin? It begins actually, I took a Part 1 Enneagram training from the Risa Hudson Institute, and one of my teachers was Gail Scott, who was a really intense and precise teacher, who afterwards I went up to her. I was like really moved by the whole workshop. I came up to her, was like sobbing just with having been like broken open by the material. And she was
Josh was being a hard boy?
Yeah. She was like, what's happening in your life? I was like, I'm moving to New York. And she was like, oh, you need to meet John Lukovich.
Oh, nice.
So I moved to New York, and turned out I actually ended up just moving to a place that was about 10-minute walk from you. And we met up at a coffee shop. Do you remember this?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's a whole story. And we met up at the coffee shop, and I came up with, I had like super eager energy. It was just like, oh my God, like I got another guy my age. He likes it. And I was like fresh, like fresh 3, just got broken open by the Enneagram. And so I came to this. What's that? Where did you move to New York from? I had been living in St. Louis as a piano player. Okay. So I moved to New York, and let's see, I'm trying to think about what's relevant here to say.
Well, so that you came up to me, and you were like you had long hair at the time, and you were in like very shiny 3 energy, like really enthusiastic, and like it's just some sort of not the same, but like when Emeka invited me to hang out, like I never say yes, to people, and so like Emeka was like, okay, like I guess like there was some reason I felt I should go, and I was like, wow, this guy's really cool. And same thing when you were like, let's meet up, and I was like, okay, like I was just, and I remember like your energy was like very intense and like bright and like enthusiastic and stuff, and like I remember being like, this is not a guy I would normally like, but I like this guy a lot. I was like, I don't know why, I just like this guy. And we'd run into each other in Bushwick, like.
Well, the first thing that you said to me, you were like, basically almost no greeting. You were like, so how do you know the Enneagram?
Social.
I told you this whole story. I was like, I just, I took this class in St. Louis, and I just took Part 1 training, and you're like, yeah, so it takes about like 5 years to know the Enneagram. I was like 1 year into the journey. I was like, all right. Well. But yeah, no, we just kind of just became friends. We'd run into each other on the subway.
Yeah.
And then I started going to your classes with Julie.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I started learning about the instincts that way.
Yeah.
And just kind of, I was hungry, hungry for material, and I was learning a lot more. And I was kind of, I had a felt sense of like things that I had been learning in sort of mainstream Enneagram land not quite clicking. And then when I learned from you and Julie, I was like, oh, this feels more like sharp, feels sharper.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. I don't know. I just like, I'm obsessed with this material and this world, and so just kind of kept annoying John and showing up to your classes and stuff. And then I went to that retreat that you guys did.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I was starting to actually run my own retreats. So I would like rent an Airbnb and invite 10 people and teach the Enneagram for like 3 days.
Nice.
And I did that probably like 6 or so times in the New York area. Oh wait, dude, hold on. This would be hilarious to pull this up. Do you remember the email I sent you about working together?
No.
This would be good for a laugh.
Wait, when? Like
probably like weeks after I met you.
Oh, I don't remember this. No.
Yeah, no, I sent you an email.
You were ready to get to work.
I bought I bought a URL. I bought a URL. 16?
Must be.
Yeah, something like that.
I think I met you and Emeka around the same time.
Okay, yeah. 2016. So I had bought this URL called thepresenceresolution.com. and I like emailed you, and I was like, and I pitched you, like I full on pitched you. Did not receive a response. But I kind of just let it go and like didn't ask you again. And yeah, I guess, and I started listening to the podcast, and I had met everyone. I had met everyone at the IA conference.
The Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then,
I remember that.
Kind of re-met everyone at the Zone, and then it just kind of like vaguely happened that I sort of just became part of the group.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, we can keep going with your shit because, like, when you starting your own podcast, and then there's,
right.
You know, you were like, I can't remember at this time we talked about working together, you know, like a year ago or something, and then Cozy Emergency,
like 2020, early 2022.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I was getting just sick of just coaching, like just felt like I just can't keep doing just this. And we started talking, and you like showed me so much fucking material you'd created, like binders and binders and presentations and notes, and they're all like really well done and whatever, but it was all kind of other people's material.
Yeah. And
so I was like, this is great, Josh, but like what do you think? And then you took it from there. You just like went crazy.
Yeah. Well, let me back up for 1 second. So somewhere around 2020 or 2021, I was just like trying to find a way that I could be engaged with being creative in the Enneagram. And I built the Enneagram Expressions Library based on, so it's kind of like, you know, just making a visual, interactive way to engage with the Enneagram or type database.
Yeah.
And also, like, I had been curating like songs and poetry and art and stuff like that based on type and instinct and stuff like that. So I just kind of put it all up on this website, which ended up going nowhere, but it took me fucking forever to put it together. But it just kind of felt like a labor of love, and and it kind of like started a conversation with you guys, and then it just was like, I had a very clear felt sense that I just wanted to be collaborating with you guys, you know?
Right.
And I had all this inspiration around the Enneagram, but didn't quite know what form that was going to take. And I think as a Bermuda type also just really struggled to like sense what form would be natural for me. And then the idea for the interview show just kind of came up, and I was like, all right, let's try this out. And I did a few, and it just felt like it really suited me. And then that also kind of became a collaboration because like now I'm interviewing people you guys have typed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to pay John a compliment because something that you touched on, Josh, that I feel the same way. So that's one of the exceptional things about John as a teacher is he's teaching you, but also validating that you have something to contribute. And I think that's very unusual. And I think that's also maybe part of the reason why so many attachment types are attracted to the podcast and to the Facebook group, because we are being taught, but also you can contribute. It's an and.
Yes.
And so, you know, at this point, this is what I do for a living also, and that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if John hadn't both taught me and said, you have something to say.
Yeah.
And I think that's a special kind of person.
Yeah, I'll add to that what's one of the things that drew me to John as a teacher was that he wasn't putting on the persona of a teacher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just are your fucking self. And you know, like, yeah, like you crack jokes, you're whatever, like you're just very free with your expression. And I see a lot of Enneagram teachers and generally spiritual teachers who take on the quality of just compassionate speaking, you know, and it's like, I find that kind of repulsive. And just like there's a certain way of actually, let me say, my first entry point into the Enneagram was a workshop in St. Louis that was taught by a guy who did a very beautiful job facilitating a psychologically safe space. And I was really attracted originally to that style of teaching, that like super compassionate, like looking at your heart kind of style of teaching. And as I started like excavating more of myself, I kind of started to realize that itself was a persona, that kind of spiritualized teacher guru persona. So when I was learning from John, I was just like, not that. I was like, oh, this is real. It feels real. And also, I just felt like we had friend chemistry. Yep. So that was cool too. And then, so circling back to your point, like we started talking about doing school, and, as soon as you kind of floated that idea, it was like, oh, fuck yeah. Like this is what I'm for. This is what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I was just like super thrilled that you wanted to collaborate on it. And when you said that, like that moment of like, what do you think about the Enneagram? I want to know what you think about the Enneagram. That was a huge moment. I mean, like the moment itself was like a bit of it got punched, but I didn't realize even how much, like you cracked the dam, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, like my mind started going to places that it hadn't gone before. And so that led to this whole kind of download around the object relations and the centers and the developmental view and stuff. And what I started to honor after that moment was like my genuine questions that I had about the Enneagram. In particular, that I always felt that the centers of intelligence were the most woo-woo part of the Enneagram. Like I never got a straight answer from a teacher about like, what does it mean to be a body type? What is the body center? And there's constellations of words that kind of like point to that dimension of experience. Like it's gut, it's instinctual knowing, it's animal, whatever. It's like when you get a hunch about something, I'm like, but what does it mean? Like, and why are body types so concerned with a totally different set of needs, psychological needs, than heart types?
Why are they giant lumps?
Yeah, and like why do they all have this similar energetic quality? And so I just really started getting curious and actually turning inside for answers as opposed to like someone else who had thought of it before. Kind of really shocked myself with what came through. Like I'm curious to hear other attachment types speak about their experience with this. Like the developmental centers view with kind of combining object relations in the centers. It came through me like an insight like I haven't had before. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like something up here. It just kind of just came through, and it didn't happen just all in a moment, but it happened. I found myself being drawn to a journal on my iPad, and kind of like probably every day for about 3 or 4 weeks, I was just like drawn to my iPad, and I would journal for like an hour and a half or so, and just like it would just like pour out of me. And it was combining a lot of the stuff I'd read about from Ken Wilber and just other kind of consciousness sources that I'd been reading in the last year and a half. So it was all very surprising. And anyway, I guess that's the story.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate what you said about my teacherness or something, because I mean, I just saw like, going to conferences and workshops and stuff like this, you'd see just like that air of whatever, but there was such a way that it didn't fit when people were like not talking publicly. And also the Enneagram is such a powerful system that people feel very seen by it. And when people feel very seen by it, they can project that feeling seen to the teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
The teacher is somehow this vessel of this kind of other thing that they're seeking. And, I mean, we've all dealt with how kind of crazy some people can be.
Yeah.
With just a little bit, like either a feeling of being seen or a feeling of not being seen.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important for me that, that those of us bringing this thing forward, do so just like totally in a human way, and not try to sell anybody on some fucking thing, because it's just it's we're dealing with personality, so let's be like real about personality, and like having a personality is inevitable. This whole thing about like, I don't know, the fake, like it's a fakeness around spirituality that is like really, I hate it.
Yeah. I'll just say one other thing. Like the interviews that I've been doing have been so amazing for me, because it's like, it's going to the source. You know, it's like it's not reading about someone else's perspective. It's like just hearing what it's like in someone else's inner world, and you know, just going to a person and being like, what's it like in there, has like really, really refines and helped me understand like that there's no way I would have come up with what I came up with without that. And it's pretty cool to have this community that like people have, like they arrive at the community with a hunger for and a predisposition for high resolution interiority. And actually, I mean, Ikram, when I've interviewed you, you know, that was an amazing experience for me too, because you showed up already having like processed a lot of your sevenness, and were able to articulate it in a way that was very like deep and soulful and refreshing and very clear. And you were still kind of new to the Enneagram, but that's something that is fascinating to me too, is like when a person has like undergone a real journey, and then they discover the Enneagram, it contextualizes their journey. If a person hasn't gone through a journey yet and they discover the Enneagram, it is a doorway, but also you can get lost in mistyping and stuff like that. So, yeah.
I said it helps that you're a very good interviewer. You are very present, and I think you have a very still quality to yourself, and you like peer right through people. And I think that's why you're getting such good material out of people, because I discovered things when I was talking to you that I didn't really put into words before. So yeah, I just want to give you a shout out there.
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
He'll take it.
No. Anyway, yeah, so that's that. And I'm like, I mean, I'm super pumped about the school, man.
Me
like
too.
we're like, it's just, there's so much creativity there, and there's just, it's only like, it really truly is the beginning.
For
like
sure.
it's very cool what's going to happen.
And speaking of the school,
our
newest co-teacher, I wanted to get a little bit her story of getting on this thing.
Yeah.
So, Alexandra,
Yes,
how did you come to the podcast?
Social climbed my way to the top. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Let's see my story. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, we started the pod, and it was like over the course of the pandemic, where I started to see in like these chats we were in, Alexandra's like insight and insightfulness and way of explaining things, but also very funny and very hammy. And you know, I kept being like, man, I wish when we started we'd also had Alexandra on here. She just got the Enneagram so fast. And could explain it in ways that was like much more accessible than us.
Right.
She could just really quickly just like explain a thing, and so yeah, after we got together, and that was a big whole event, and I remember just having her on more and more. I remember Dave and Alexandra doing their 9-on-9 action. One episode, recording it from her apartment in Tampa. But yeah, I kind of feel like, with you, like, I know you sort of have that 9 thing of feeling like, I don't know if I have anything to say, even though it's like often the most clear. And like somebody posted something about now that Alexandra's on the pod, it's actually listenable. And I screenshotted it and I posted it as the story on the Instagram thing, and I got like tons and tons of people liking that story and affirming it and stuff like this. And so, now she's doing this Bachelor commentary, and it's kind of like Dark Arts where you can take these like attachment, right? Like we should kind of get back to attachment at some point, but like as a hexad type, triple hexad, understanding attachment has been a total mindfuck.
Yeah.
Because it's like contextualized so much of why I like nothing made sense to me, and like why human interaction was so strange to me. And so Alexandra, like, she watches our reality shows, and she does it with like this critical eye where she's like, oh, this person's doing this and they're attaching to this, and this person just got she's not actually attracted to this guy, but that gave her attachment permission to be attached because it's familiar, blah, 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 blah. And it was like such good play-by-play analyses. And so it was great. And so I don't know, you have one more say more about more regular on the pod or anything? Or anybody else want to say things about Alexandra being on the pod?
I mean, so similar to Josh and Courtney, when I was just in the chats with you guys, yeah, right, yeah. Let's see, what am I trying to say here? I guess, like, while we were in the chats, we were operating from such different parts of the Enneagram that I felt like, I don't know, I guess I felt like I could offer a perspective that was valuable and that was kind of a blind spot for you guys in certain ways. Yeah, I guess there's not much to say on that. I just feel like we just kind of, like I happen to come in on the other side of a spectrum, being social dominant and being triple attachment. Yeah, that I guess was helpful. And I guess feeling very valued and feeling very validated and feeling like I was like helping you guys sort of solve some puzzle was very enlivening for me and very encouraging for me. And it was fun. Like it was just fun. It was fun to talk and like be stupid and then I liked the sudden change of pace from some like just dumbass conversation to the depths of the instincts. So it was just a good place. And then after the way it got on to be on the podcast. So I had so I had been a guest a few times. I was on the Make 9 Great Again episodes. I was on a social episode. There was a social self-pres versus social sexual episode. And then when John and I got together, I was just invited to talk a lot more until it just became a regular thing. And then I recorded my part of the intro, and that's really all there is to that. It has been interesting to get feedback from people on the kind of like new tone that having a social type and having a triple attachment, specifically a social triple attachment. It's been interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting to get the feedback on what my presence does to the atmosphere. I do think that I kind of speak for the collective in a lot of ways, and I'm kind of providing like the baseline, I don't know, just like the baseline, like, what would you say, like jumping off point or something like that?
Well, I'll say that I think at least the three of us often talk from a place of bewilderment about like other people.
Yeah.
And like, what is going on here? And then you will just come in and be like, this is what they're doing. Yeah. Like the whole social chessboard, the whole emotional chessboard. This is what they actually wanted, but this is how they thought about going and get it, and this is where it went wrong. And we're like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and I guess that's a blind spot that I was referring to earlier, because it seemed like you guys were really confused about really basic things, and I was
about people.
I was able to come in and be like, they just like each other. The friendship is confusing. They're friends.
It is.
And yeah, that's been fun.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's one thing to say you're triple attachment and social first, and therefore you represent a missing piece in the podcast or are representing sort of a dominant lens that you three don't have. But it's not just that, because there are a lot of people that have that.
Right.
And so it's also the ability to articulate what that actually means. So it's not just
your type.
It's not just your intro of like, here, I'm a social type, blah, blah, blah. It's your ability to speak about it in an articulate way. That's what I think people are pointing to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
So I think in terms of the, like, just recontextualizing the whole narrative. So starting with Courtney's object relations episode, feels like what we've been kind of doing as a collective is burrowing through like the bottom of the Enneagram and discovering the layers and layers beneath it that actually kind of collectively produce the Enneagram in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like object relations and then attachment versus hexad, and then attachment to disconnect, and then my whole thing with object relations, and
instinct driving.
And instinct driving, that's part of it too, right? Yeah. And let's see if we can make this graceful segue. So I'm thinking about like burrowing down into the unconscious, like, and
are you segueing to the dream thing?
I am, yeah.
Before we do
yeah.
So you messed up the segue.
No, I was just the thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, another piece that's like a major factor of our podcast that just occurred to me after Alexandra was speaking was a lot of stuff has come from relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like in romantic relationships, like all that soul intercourse stuff. And
that
like,
was huge,
like just blind spot stuff, and I mean, like that's been like a weird, not weird. Like, you know, there's a lot of sexual energy on our podcast, so there's obviously that's going to be a big factor. But like our personal relationships and romantic relationships have like done so much too, have been like, so transformative and brought up so much stuff in ourselves and each other, and so, you know, I mean, like, just like, you know, I thought I understood something about social instinct, and then I get with Alexandra, and I'm learning a whole bunch of like ways, like areas I needed love that I didn't even know didn't know were there, didn't know love could go, all the kind of stuff. And, you know, I mean, we just had enormous personal transformations through that stuff. And so I just like, that's a big part of our thing too. So I just wanted
to... The attachment versus hexad wouldn't have happened unless soul intercourse happened, and then people reacting to that, which was like, oh, well, why are people reacting this way? Oh, this is hexad versus attachment, and that was like 3 months of insights around attachment.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just a way that I think it was a point where you asked how is this creativity happening? It's like we have experiences and it sort of fucks with your head. We were like, what is going on here?
I know, it's kind of like just really honoring your bewilderment.
Exactly.
You know, you're like,
just following the unpredictable, pull of curiosity based on things that happen to us that we don't understand. And even like the last zone, based on some things were happening, that opened up a whole door of insights.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do like weird shit happening. Even if I don't like what happens, I always end up, getting a lot from it.
Mm. Yeah, it's pretty amazing how, like, it's possible to have genuine, fresh insights when you just look inside.
Yeah.
You just take the content of your life, you go in and you look at your reactions and
go, what the fuck?
And go, what the hell's going on here? Yeah. So speaking of that, so maybe just as a prompt, like, so Kristen specifically, maybe how did you find the group? And then you have a whole history with dreams and kind of living in an alternate dimension. And your interview that we did is coming out next, so that's happening soon.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about like how you kind of started making the connection between dreams and the Enneagram, and then how the three of you guys all connected and kind of moved into that space together, and what's fascinating about it for you now.
Right. I mean, yeah, I said it before that I found the group through my social blind roommate, and like just listening to it, at a job that I can finally listen to things at. Like, I had a lot of time to spend, like, listening and, like, really letting it impact me, I think. And that's what, like, the things that I'm drawn to the most are, like, something that really hits me. And dream work was simultaneously kind of at the same time that I started getting into Jung's work, and that was really hitting me as well. So I actually didn't even think of, like, doing Enneagram and dreams at first. Like, it wasn't an initial thought, but like the last zone when I started talking about dreams, just because I'm blast first, and so I only talk about things that I can blast about, and dreams just happened to come up. And people started trusting me with their dreams. I started realizing, like, oh my God, like, the Enneagram is alive in the unconscious too. And it's very, very personal to each person. So then, like, seeing it hit them individually, and just how deep the Enneagram is than just, like, descriptions or, like ego kind of stuff. Like, there's a whole universe that's, like, just charging all of that. And I was super drawn to that. So immediately I started just getting these again, it's like creative, like, I don't know where it came from. This, like, creative impulse to understand that connection. So I thought, like, I guess, like, we kind of just started talking because of being in the last zone together. And then we're like, yeah, okay. David mentioned, like, you guys should start talking about these things more, like, in depth. And we're like, okay, great idea. And they're just as interested in it. So we all are, like, discovering things about ourselves. And I don't know, like, it's because I'm not, like, an analyst. I didn't go to school for this kind of stuff. So it's like, I find that kind of freeing in a way, because I can be more creative and not, like, there kind of doesn't need to be rules for it. And I'm feeling into it instead of, like, okay, here's, like, I'm just checking off the boxes in a book already or something. So, and then learning about it even more through, like, personal relationships and how other people's dreams are impacting them, and then what that says about their type and how they're doing it and stuff. Like, it's just pretty cool. I don't know if you guys wanted to say anything else. Probably not. You dead? Okay.
Me too.
Well, I want to just real quick say, so Kaisa, if anybody wants to know more about Kaisa, I have an interview with you also. And so as I recall, you're actually studying therapy, right? Or studying psychology or something like that. Remind me?
Yeah, psychology.
Yeah, psychology, yeah. And I was pretty blown away when we talked. When first of all, you reached out to me to do the interview, and you were like, I have notes. And you had, like, a lot of notes and a lot of topics that we probably didn't even get to on that podcast. But I guess I'm just pointing to the fact that you're obviously a very deep thinker and a very brilliant person who's come up with a lot of original stuff yourself. And, like, I experience you as a very creative intellectual. And yeah, so it kind of just made sense to me that you are part of the kind of Dream World podcast. And what's interesting to me about what you guys have been doing, I've listened to the first couple episodes, and I'm really struck by how personal it is. And how much just how much of a fast track to the most vulnerable part of you dream work is. And I think it's very courageous what you guys are doing, actually, like, talking about your dreams and analyzing them together on a live podcast. It's quite amazing. Yeah. So maybe if you guys have any words for what it's been like to go through that process and start excavating your own unconscious through this dream work lens.
Okay, well, as I see it, when each of us bring our own unique qualities and own unique mind into the process, that creates a very special kind of fusion where the, like, real creation and inspiration can happen and come up as something valuable that we can share. And we started approaching it in a way that like we briefly introduced the dream world, and then we started delving into the instincts, and we made this kind of dream incubation where each of us, we started with self-press. Each of us journaled about self-press and asked our unconscious to have a dream. And we have a self-press dominant, self-press middle, and a self-press blind there. And like through that, for each of us, there opened like a very profound process of understanding what is the essence of self-press in our unconscious as an energetic charge that's like propelling us to do the self-press, and how, for example, me as self-press blind, how can I access that as an internal sensation and not as something that is projected in the external world, and not trying to like copy what others do, what self-press doms or self-press middles do. It's like it's never gonna look the same to me, and so I have to do some internal exploration to like figure out what is my essence, what are my dreams and longings, and those are the things that I need to preserve. And it's not some kind of self-preservation out there that needs preserving, it's something inside myself. And then finding the energy inside me that would then help me like find the kind of nourishment and comfort and self-containment. And yeah, we've kind of through a lot of meltdowns, because like with each instinct there is a lot of like trauma and grief, anger, frustration, fear that is blocking your access to that instinct, like especially with blind spots, but also with dominant and secondary. And feeling all that emotion kind of releases an access to that instinct and enables one to form an actual relationship with that instinct. Mm. And that's kind of the process that we have 6 episodes on self-press. Now we have been through 2 on social, and yeah, it's been super interesting and fulfilling. And we have like shit ton of written material too. We are gonna probably somewhere in the future come up with some.
Yeah, I think one of the fun things about like doing it this way is it's giving me like ideas on just how everything is moving in the unconscious. Like the Enneagram is just this moving thing inside of you, just constantly developing and growing and breaking down and growing again. And like, you know, it's so the instincts are intense right now, but I'm looking like way into the future already, and I have ideas for like the centers and the types, and like, and it's not like it's surprising me each time I think about it, because it's not just a matter of like, oh, here are the symbols of, you know, the body center or something. Like it's much more dynamic than that. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't know, it's like I think one of the things I learned this last night, like that the Enneagram world can sometimes lack, is the connection to the unconscious. And I think that's why a lot of people do use it as kind of like an ego game, because it's like, here's the thing that defines me, and here's the descriptions, and I fit them, and whatever. So like when you're involving the unconscious and seeing just how like dynamic and different and deep that world is inside of you, and how much like you're not actually like relating with people or your life in the way that, you know, deep inside of you really wants to. It's just covered in layers and layers of just like complexes and associations and history of your life. Like it's like letting that process break down so you can get to like the core of it. And that's really hard. And that's what we're learning. It's really fucking hard.
Yeah, it's kind of like listening to the podcast. We're learning that with you in real time.
I kind of like that too, because it's like I kind of like, might want to beat up on myself sometimes because I'm like, I'm not a professional or anything. But that's actually something that I don't like about like professional material is like, I don't hear any examples really. Like I don't get to see the work it's just a bunch of theories kind of up in the air. And even though I'm a social type and I love things that are up in the air, like I still need I need to see it inside of me too. And so that's why I really love like just watching it in each of you guys is like, yay. It's really cool to watch it. Like making mistakes and then like re-looking at things and then like, I think it's just a lot more, it's uncovering a lot more than I thought it would.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. Here, you want this microphone?
Yeah. Any last words? Chicago Zone.
This is zone number 6, I believe.
Zone number 6.
Zone 6, yeah. Season 4.
Season 4. Oh, this is a really good zone. Not to toot my own horn. You're all welcome. Collective energy is really great.
Yeah, collective energy is actually the exact word to
That's
use.
exactly what it is.
It feels very communal. It feels very safe and very intimate. And like, I don't know, just observing last night, there were like different people like pairing off and just going and having their intimate moment together, getting to share with each other. And then it would like reconstitute and there would be different pairings, doing the same thing. And we had people crying and we had people laughing. And it's just been a really like beautiful and safe holding environment to get to experience each other and get to experience ourselves at the same time. And I'm really thankful for that. Since we've been doing these zones, I feel like it's gotten safer and more intimate every time.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm just really excited to see where it goes. I hope this is something that ends up being like a really long-standing thing, because these have been really key moments in my life that I think will be like defining moments for me as time goes on.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, thanks, bitches.
Wait, we need the 3 sign off.
Oh. That's right. All right, losers. Thanks for tuning in to Big Hormone Enneagram. Sammy, calm down, please.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
We're all exhausted by Sammy's energy. I mean, really.
Toxic Sammy won't shut up.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys.
Sweet.
All right.
Love everyone.
Peace out.
Yeah. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Zombie not go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie not go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie not go unless you tell him to go. Zombie not go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie not go turn unless you tell him to turn. Zombie not go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Tell him to go straight. Na joro jara joro. No break, no jam, no sense. Na joro jara joro. Tell him to go kill. Na joro jara joro. No break, no jam, no sense. Na joro jara joro. Tell him to go quench. Na joro jara joro. No break, no jam, no sense. Na joro jara joro. Go and kill. Go and die. Go and quench. Put up all the verse. Go and quench. Go and kill. Go and die. Put up all the verse. Go and die. Go and quench. Go and kill. Put up all the verse. Joro jara joro. Zombie when I one way. Joro jara joro. Zombie when I one way. Joro jara joro. Zombie when I one way. Joro jara joro. Whoa. Attention, quick march, slow march, left on, right on. open your hat, stand at ease, fall in, fall out, fall down, dead ready, attention, quick match, slow match, left turn, right turn, a button, double up, salute, open your hat, stand at ease, fall in, fall out, halt!